from Doug Folsom talking about the Trust Accountability Program 2019.
Okay, thanks, Jason. Over the years, we've been doing the TAP program, Trust Accountability Program. We started it in 2013, I believe, was the first year that we did it. So the first awards would have been awarded in 2014. And so now we're right in the process of approving applications for the 2018 Trust Accountability Program. So we have a full 5 years of completion in the TAP program. I am really pleased to see so many of you joining us for this today, because it tells me that there's that interest out there for the TAP program. We do have a lot of members that participate in the TAP program. Over the years, we've added members as we've progressed with the program, and there's in the neighborhood of about 110 members of the trust who have participated, who have received the TAP program or the TAP award at least at one point during the last 5 years. And the vast majority of those, almost 100 of those members, are currently receiving the TAP award, and most of those have received it for multiple years and continue to receive that. Of course, as you know, that the TAP program provides you with some benefits for putting into place in your operations and in your organization some best practices. For this, there's a cash award that's equal to 5% of your liability premium. And there's also discounting on your workers' compensation premium that can add up to almost another 5% off of the workers' comp premium, so about 4.5%. That is earned over a series of 3 years, receiving the TAP award in consecutive years. That increases every year for 3 years. And so those are some real financial incentives for participating in the TAP program. I love the TAP program because it has really created a framework for us here in Utah and with our member entities throughout the state of Utah for implementing best practices for risk management. And for this coming year, we've actually decided to do something quite a bit different with regards to these best practices. If we look at what has been successful over the past years, there are certain places, certain of the best practices that we can point to that we feel are the most important areas that we really make sure we have implemented so that we are reducing the frequency of accidental losses, whether those are car crashes or whether it's workers' compensation claims, injury to employees, especially keeping people safe at work and helping people go home alive every day. That's really what's important to us, to Jason, Brent, and I here at the Trust. That's what makes our job so rewarding, is to help people go home safe. And these parts of TAP that have been most successful in doing that, we want to focus a little bit more on. We also want to take the TAP program and make it more simple, something that's easier for you to finish, to apply for, to be able to receive that award. So for 2019, we are going to be simplifying the TAP program fairly significantly. And that doesn't mean that all the pieces of the previous TAP programs, we don't deem those important. We think those are very important, and they will continue to be best practices that the Trust Loss Prevention Team will be helping you implement and implement better. But for purposes of the TAP program, we're going to focus it on a smaller group of these requirements that we've had in the past. And actually, we're adding a new requirement that's going to be very flexible for you to determine what you want it to be. And I'm a little leery about jumping into this just yet. I actually, as Jason was doing the intro, I kind of had some butterflies in my stomach and was thinking, oh no, I was looking at the list of who we've got watching today, and I noticed a couple of you out there. I'm still waiting for your TAP application documentation. And I don't want you to get mad at me because all of a sudden we're making it, less complicated for 2019 as far as what it's going to take to submit the application. 2018 still is what it is, what those requirements are, and so we're still looking for those. For a lot of you, most of you have already submitted your TAP applications, but there are a few of you still out there, and we have a little bit more time left here to collect that information from you. But so don't get mad at me whether you've already submitted your TAP application or whether you're in the process of putting the documents together now. please don't be mad at me for the amount of paper you've been collecting to send over here, just because we decided we're going to do it in a little bit different way for 2019. But I'm sure you're also excited about that for 2019. We feel that actually the most important part of a successful loss prevention program, risk management program, is the accountability piece. And that's why 6 years ago, we decided to call this the Trust Accountability Program. Accountability is what makes us successful. When you have accountability within your organization, when employees are held accountable, when supervisors and managers are held accountable, and when top executives and top managers hold themselves accountable, that is when we have extremely successful programs and when we see really great results in progress in our loss prevention efforts here at the Trust. So what works? There's things that we focus on in order to be able to prevent future incidents from occurring. We want to focus on what will help us prevent. What we found is incentives can be a great tool in helping to prevent incidents. In fact, most of you are familiar with our emphasis the last year and even the last 2 years on safety incentive programs, and that being actually a part of the 2018 TAP program is the incentive program. What we've seen with a lot of our members who are early adopters of safety incentive programs is that they've had a significant reduction in the frequency of workers' compensation claims and even auto liability claims. Our recommended incentive programs have focused on auto liability as well as work comp, but we have some of the early adopting programs where we've seen as much as 70+% decreases in the frequency of incidents. And that's not just, maybe incidents that weren't worth reporting. When we look at the workers' compensation program, the decrease in incidents we've seen has been significant, not only on $0 claims, but on claims that have incurred losses as well. And I'll show you some numbers on that here in a little bit, but this graph here is just representative of what some of those results have looked like for some of our members. Commitment is absolutely essential, and commitment from the top management is really what makes these programs work. A safety incentive program that is ignored, by the top management and, someone just kind of puts it in place and lets it run and doesn't really focus on it, doesn't emphasize its importance, doesn't participate in that program, that program probably isn't going to be as successful. And so we're really looking for a commitment from top management with the 2019 TAP program. And so that's going to be a piece, and that's kind of a new piece that we're looking at. And then also simplifying. One thing we've heard from a lot of you, and we are listening, we hear you, is that the TAP program requires a lot of work just to put all the paper together, all the documentation to compile that. And so we've heard you, and so we are going to simplify this program, and hopefully in a way that will still provide us the results and even improving results through the years as we go forward with this. So the 2019 TAP program will have 3 sections on it instead of 9. The first 2 sections are fairly related to each other, and the first section is actually going to be broken down into 2 parts, but it's still going to be pretty simple. So what we're looking at is your safety committee activities, and we're going to have a little bit of detail on what we're going to be looking for there. Then there's the safety incentive program that I've just been talking about a little bit. And then the third piece, which is new for the 2019 TAP program, is management commitment. And this is going to be a piece where we're not going to really identify with a lot of detail exactly what we're requiring from you. This is going to be something where the ball is going to be in your court to decide what do you want to do as far as your own personal goals as an executive of your organization with regards to safety. And it will be done in a way that will help you outline a path to success with those goals. So let's take a look at the first section, the safety committee. This is something that has been a part of the TAP program from year one. It is important that we have participation in safety, that employees feel involved in safety, that they feel like they have an ownership in safety. And participating in a safety committee is one way that we can do that, whether that's involving all employees or whether it's making sure that all departments come together and there's representation from all departments. We're finding ways to involve the entire organization in safety. Safety committee activities in the past have been broken down into basically 4 parts, and we're going to cut that back to just 2 subparts for the safety committee. The safety committee activities itself as a committee, and then the incident review or the accident review and investigation process is the other part of that. And so those are both things that have been a part of the TAP for quite some time, pretty much from the beginning. When we look at the safety committee piece, we want to see top management, someone who represents your top executive or the top executive themselves, participating in the safety committee actively. This is very important to have someone in there who's able to make decisions or get decisions approved in a streamlined fashion. We want to make sure that the safety committee is able to have activities and implement programs that will have an effect, and not just have a group of people getting around and talking, every now and then. The safety committee should have goals and objectives. Identify why are we here? What is our purpose as a safety committee? And of course, obviously, a big part of that is going to be identifying and implementing solutions to problems that we see exist with regards to safety within our organization. Along with that, you should have ways for monitoring and measuring and evaluating how successful you're being, and also being able to do periodic course corrections, evaluating if you think your activities are having an impact, and if not, what are some ways that we can change that to make sure it has an impact. And so this will actually isn't going to be really complicated as far as what you're going to need to submit for the safety committee. We'll still want to see a copy of your agenda and minutes. The minutes is really the best part of what you submit, because it gives us an idea. We're able to see exactly what kind of conversations you're having in the safety committee. And we want to see something similar to what we had on the rubric for last year. Remember, we had this rubric, good, better, best. And what we're really going to be looking for on this is what we identified as best implementation for the safety committee. And what we saw, the last few years, and especially this year, when we identified for you what good, better, and best was, guess what? How you did it went way up. I know that all of you want to do what you do well. You want to be recognized for doing it well. And I was very pleased. I am very pleased as we're processing 2018 TAP applications this year to see the efforts that you have made to make sure that your safety committee activities, in fact, all the required activities for the TAP award, that you're doing them in a way that meets that better or best standard that we've identified. So we're looking for something that is going to be frequent. And so we want to see safety committee meetings that happen every month or every other month, but on a regular basis. They need to be fairly frequent. We want to see that you are actually identifying solutions, that you're talking about and identifying solutions, that assignments are being made and followed up on, and that you are working towards achieving your goals. And so we'll basically be looking for that evidence in the minutes of your safety committee as we see what it is that you're discussing and what kind of assignments have been made and how those have gone for you. So this is basically just going to be submitting those safety committee minutes for the year. The second part of the safety committee requirement is the incident review. And a lot of you have done this within your safety committees, and a lot of you have had a separate committee that is just for accident investigations or for accident and incident reviews. Either way is perfectly fine. You can have the incident reviews done by one committee, by the safety committee, or you can have a separate group that does your incident reviews. And that's really up to you, as long as we have effective incident reviews happening. And again, we're going to be looking for a best level implementation with these incident reviews. Now, this gets kind of challenging. We understand lots of times when you're going through looking at your incidents that have happened, it can be a challenge to identify what is that corrective action. What was the root cause? Why did this event happen? What were the contributing factors? What can we do different going forward, to prevent this same kind of incident from happening again? What I want you to really remember is that the focus here is on prevention. If we're going to do an incident review, let's make sure that if we're spending the time to do that, that we identify preventative measures. What are we going to do different? And there's different ways to do that. Almost every time we're going to address something with the employee that was involved. But there's also other levels where we can prevent. Supervisor responsibility is important. Are supervisors held accountable for accidents that happen? Do supervisors not just train their employees on safety, but do they follow up and verify that the safety training is being followed? Do they, make sure that on the work site that the job is being done in a safe manner? And that's a very important part of this. So we get away from sometimes just looking at the employee, but what can we do different? We see examples sometimes where in an incident review, the member will say, we don't really think this was preventable. And there's lots of ways to prevent, anywhere from, addressing the problem with the employee, to changing rules, to changing the tools that are used, to changing the PPE, to changing supervision or the way we supervise, to, just not engaging in the activity where someone was hurt. And let me tell you, when I see a work comp claim, I shouldn't get on the soapbox, forgive me, but when I see a work comp claim that involves a ball sport that, really isn't a part of most of our jobs, we're not professional basketball players or whatever, and I see an injury associated with a ball sport, and the incident review, says that it wasn't preventable, let me tell you, there's an easy way to prevent getting injured playing basketball. Any ideas on what that is? Okay, we got you. So there's also that, risk avoidance, just not engaging in the activity. So there's a lot of things that we can look at. And if you ever stumped on how you can prevent, what can be a preventative measure, how an incident can be prevented, and you just can't get there, hey, give your loss prevention consultant a call. Give one of us a call, and we'd be glad to look at it. Sometimes we get a little stumped on them too. There are things that happen that can be really difficult to figure out how we're going to prevent those and still get the job done. And so I'm not saying that, 100% of the time we're going to be able to identify, corrective actions and ways to prevent this from happening in the future. But there are a lot of considerations that we can look at that can be really helpful in helping us be safer in the future. There's going to be some important aspects of this. So report and investigate. A good incident review begins before we even sit down as a committee to decide what the preventative measures should be. It begins when the accident happens with a supervisor's first report of injury. It happens with the investigation of what happened at that accident scene. And so whether that's your supervisor or whoever in the organization you assign to investigate these incidents, we need to have thorough investigations. We need to really answer the questions. What were the contributing factors? What was going on? What was the work that was being done? What was the, PPE that the employee was using? What tools were they using? What was the condition of that equipment? What was their footwear? What was, all sorts of things. Often we see things come up where we don't realize that there's a fix. Sometimes we think, well, we're using the right PPE, so what else could we do if we're using the right PPE? And sometimes as we read your incident reviews, we realize that there's maybe an additional level of PPE that you weren't aware of that should be used. So again, it's important before you sit down in your incident review committee to make sure that you've collected good information. I've participated in a lot of your committees, and sometimes we have information come to the committee and we don't really have enough information about what the scene looked like, what happened, what all the contributing factors were to really be able to make a determination of how we're going to prevent this in the future. So we're going to be revising and updating our sample documents for accident reports and investigations, and as well as conducting the incident review to help you gather more detailed information to help in this process. it's really important that you be able to identify whoever's going to be making recommendations on how to prevent this in the future needs to have good information to know how did it happen and why did it happen and what were the contributing factors to be able to do that. So incident reviews will still be a part of that safety committee function. So we'll be looking for at least 3 incident reviews, and we don't need to see all incident reviews that you do. You don't have to, send us that paper. We encourage you to do incident reviews on any events that are of significance. And so you may be doing a lot of different incident reviews, but really this is your opportunity to show us how well you do an incident review. So send us the examples where you are really proud of what you've done in identifying, the how and why and what were the contributing factors and what we're going to do to prevent it. And again, for us best level implementation here, what we're really looking for is maybe not just one preventive action. We like to see that you're going to do multiple things. If we have an event happen and we can look at that and we can do some correction with the employee and we can maybe adjust our training and we can, maybe address an issue that has to do with supervision. Maybe we adopt a new policy and change a rule. You can have, not just 1 or 2, but you can have multiple corrective actions. And we like to see when you have corrective actions that touch different areas, of the organization. Addressing the employee, addressing the engineering aspect, addressing the department or other levels. And that shows us that you're really going to have increase the likelihood that your activities will prevent a future reoccurrence of a similar incident from happening again. So again, that rubric we had last year where we talked about, multiple types of preventative action, and making sure that we're looking at this in a way that is going to be most effective. Please avoid sending us incident reviews that say, this was not preventable and we can't identify a way to prevent. Also, remember, it doesn't have to be an accident. That's been a question a lot in the past. We don't have to have an actual injury to do an incident review. An incident review can be conducted on, a piece of equipment that became faulty, and determining why that equipment failed. An investigation could be conducted on, why a building, an aspect of a building, a physical facility became unsafe, where there was a lack of maintenance or maybe there was materials, that weren't the best or the safest materials that were being used. So remember, a lot of you don't have accidents or don't have enough accidents to do 3 incident reviews on 3 accidents, and we're very mindful of that. And and whether it's an accident or an incident or an unsafe condition that you've investigated and corrected, show us that you're able to really look at that and determine things that we can do to prevent, reoccurrences of the same type of event in the future. And we'll obviously look at that in the context of your organization. Some organizations are large and some are small, and we do different kinds of work. And so as we look at this, we're going to be looking at in the scope of what your operations are, not necessarily what would be the same for every, the average trust member, for example. So that's the safety committees. So safety committees, frequent, and actively engaged in finding ways to address safety problems. And then the incident investigations where we're effectively identifying preventative measures to keep things from happening in the future. The second requirement for the 2019 TAP program is going to be the safety incentive. And there are certain aspects that we have found that are common and very helpful in a safety incentive program being the most successful possible. And once again, if you have a safety incentive program that is very successful and it's working, we will take that into consideration. So if you think you've got something that works really good and maybe it doesn't quite tick all these boxes, but you can show at the end of the year the results are phenomenal, then, we're not going to sit here and tell you and argue with you that, there was one point that was missing from your safety incentive program. But we will tell you and we will encourage you and our teammates here at the Trust, both on the marketing side as well as here in loss prevention, we'll be working with you and encouraging you to implement safety incentive programs that are team-based. Team-based programs allow employees to provide active support for each other. Employees are invested in the safety of their teammate. And by teams, generally what we're looking for there is where the safety incentive is awarded on an all or nothing basis for the team. It may or may not be a competition between teams. In fact, some of you don't even want to have an element of competition between teams. But if team members are dependent on each other for the safety incentive, to receive the safety incentive, then they will support each other and help hold each other accountable for safety. If my safety incentive depends on Brent or Jason, being safe, when I see them doing something unsafe, then I'll say something to them because I don't want to lose my safety incentive. So we get that peer support and peer accountability. And so we have found that team-oriented safety incentives where the team earn their incentive all or nothing together is great. And you don't have to divide up into multiple teams. You could have, a whole department be a team. The incentive is one, all or nothing by the department or by the whole organization. But that's basically what we're talking about when we're looking for teams. But it can also be broken down into smaller teams. It's a good idea to have those teams be employees who are working together because they're able to interact with each other, see each other working, and provide that support and peer accountability to help them be safer. Visible results is another aspect of effective safety incentive programs. The employees need to know how they're progressing. If we have a safety incentive that is just awarded at the end of the year, and we don't really see anything during the year that shows us how well we're doing towards earning our safety incentive, then we don't have that ongoing help or encouragement to keep being safe as we're working. So we want to make sure that you, on a monthly basis, share safety results with your employees. And sometimes the safety incentive may be awarded on a monthly basis. Most of our best safety incentive programs are awarded on a monthly basis. But at the very least, we want to make sure that employees are seeing the results of their safety performance on a monthly basis. So we want to have some sort of measurement, some graph or some days, without a lost time accident or other things like that, that we're continually sharing with the employees so that they know when they're doing a good job and they can have that encouragement to keep it up. We also want to make sure that we're sharing with our employees, and this can be a part of your safety committee operations as well as your safety incentive program, but sharing with employees lessons learned. So if we do have an incident, we get together, we talk about it, we let employees know, what happened and, what kind of efforts we're going to make or what activities we're going to engage in to prevent that from happening in the future, and even give employees the opportunity to participate and give feedback and share their opinions through their knowledge and experience to maybe help identify those corrective actions as well. But employees really need to know. If we just correct an individual and we don't share with everybody what's happened, then we lose the opportunity to help other people avoid that same incident. So share the lessons learned with employees. That's a part of visible results as well. I called this monthly conditioning. The frequent reward kind of goes right along this same line. Again, we see that the more effective safety incentive programs, employees see the fruit of their efforts on a regular basis. And so conditioning, I kind of think of Pavlov's dogs. When you ring the bell and they salivate, we want to make sure that employees are making that effort on a regular daily basis and that they're getting some sort of reward from that. Now, does it have to be a costly reward every month? It may or it may not be. You may have a gift card that you give out, a lunch that you do. We found that lunches can be really great incentives where you have a department lunch once a month if we're accident free for that whole month. I mean, that's just an example of a really simple program that can be done. But even if it's not something where you're spending money every month, if you at least find a way to give them that recognition, that pat on the back, the good job, on a regular basis, to give them the encouragement to keep their focus on safety. This is what we saw last year in 2018 with regards to safety incentive programs. We had about 40 members that we identified at the beginning of 2018 that we wanted to help put into place what we called a qualified safety incentive program. Now, a qualified safety incentive program was one that met the best level type implementation, where we had, frequent rewards and lessons learned were being shared, and we had, all of these elements that we were just talking about. And we didn't get every one of these 40 groups to implement during 2018 that best level safety incentive program. It was about half of them by the end of the year, a little over half of them by the end of the year had a best level safety incentive program implemented. What I did for these graphs, though, that you're seeing on this slide was I looked at those members who had implemented a best level safety incentive program by July, so that there was time in the year for that incentive program to show some fruit, to show some results. And of those members, and it was about 17 or 18 members who had a best level, safety incentive program implemented by the middle of the year last year, we saw a 38% decrease in the average number of claims, for workers' compensation over the year. And that is phenomenal success. On those members that were in that group that didn't implement a best level safety incentive program, their frequency of monthly claims actually went up by an additional 7% over the average of their previous years. And so that's, was really telling for us to look at that to see how successful these incentive programs can be. And that's why we're making this still a primary part of the TAP award program, because more than anything, these types of programs have helped drive down accidents and injury. Now, the third element, which is the new element, is a way of measuring top management commitment to safety. And so what we are going to ask of our participants in the 2019 TAP program is that whoever your top level management is who's responsible for safety, and we'd like this to be the top executive, but if there's, because the top executive needs to be committed. Maybe this is a team thing where the top executive and maybe someone who's been delegated to be over safety, maybe they do this together. But we need a top management commitment, because if we don't have that commitment, then employees don't really take it seriously. The leader's goals are very important in what happens in an organization. If it's important to the leader, if it's important to my boss, it's going to be important to me. And I know it's important to him because he's going to, involve me in it frequently. He's going to be asking me questions about our progress, and there's going to be accountability that's going to exist there. And so it's important that top level management have this as a top goal for themselves, and that they create that accountability in their organization because of goals that they've set for safety that they are personally that feel involved in. And so again, accountability becomes a key word here. Our goals need to be able to create and maintain accountability for ourselves if we're the top management, or for others in the organization. And actually for others in the organization. And I want to encourage you not to fear the balance between, accountability, because accountability has two faces to it. The safety incentive program is accountability. Employees who make safety a priority and help each other be safe, they get rewarded for being safe. And that is accountability. Also, employees that ignore safety rules and or are negligent and they cause an accident, and they need to be held accountable. There needs to be some sort of way of addressing that. And it's not always going to be firing somebody. However, that should be on the table, and we've seen that have a great impact on the safety culture of an organization when employees know that their safety is a requirement. That may be on the table, if they really don't take safety seriously. However, in most cases, that's not going to be necessary. But in some way, employees who are being unsafe and who are, not giving due diligence to their safety and other safety, they need to know that there's that potential consequence there. Might people grumble, when we hold somebody accountable? Absolutely. Yes. There's anytime we, try to hold people accountable, there's going to be potential grumbling. I want you to be really careful not to be too worried about everything you do make everybody happy. We can't make everybody happy. In fact, sometimes if we're going to be really successful in changing a culture, if there's improvement needed in the culture, it's gonna necessitate, some people being uncomfortable, and maybe everybody being a little uncomfortable, because change is a little uncomfortable. So don't fear that balance. If we need to hold people accountable in a negative way as well as a positive way, we need to do that. That's essential to a successful program. And once we get to that point where our employees know that the accountability goes both ways, you'll find that you don't have to worry about the negative side nearly as much, because they're gonna take it seriously, and they're gonna make sure that they're making important for them what's important to you, and that's how you communicate that. So what we're going to ask for on the TAP award, when you submit the TAP award at the end of the year for this particular aspect, for the manager's commitment, is we're going to ask you to set 3 goals. And you're going to need to do this now towards the beginning of the year. Maybe you've already set some goals for your organization, but we'd like you to set 3 safety goals for yourself. And these safety goals for yourself will also be ones that will obviously trickle down into your organization, because as you hold yourself accountable for achieving your goals, you're going to need to involve other people in your organization as well. So for the TAP application, we will ask you to submit a 1-paragraph statement for each of your 3 goals, so 3 paragraphs total, that will just tell us why you chose this goal, what was your measurement of progress throughout the year, what were the things that you looked at during the year to tell yourself if you were achieving the goal, and what was the end impact or result of the goal. Did you achieve the goal? Did you, almost achieve the goal? And regardless, did we make progress from where we were? So let us know why, how you measured it, and what it resulted in by the end of the year. And so there's total flexibility for you on what this is going to look like, what those goals are going to be. Now, we're going to prepare some sample documents and some sample goals so that it will help you give some ideas, but this is 100% up to you. They just need to be safety-oriented goals by top management that they hold themselves and consequently others accountable to and work on throughout the year. So how do we do this? To achieve the goal, we need to make sure that we have a plan. So we set the goals, we identify the measurements that we're going to use, because we can't achieve a goal unless we are able to measure throughout the year, whether we're progressing towards that goal or not. So identify, what are your measurements that you're going to use? What are your target activities? What are those things that you are going to do on a regular basis throughout the year that will help you personally as well as your organization, advance towards achieving these goals? And what is that frequency going to be? And that may vary depending on what those activities are. Measuring your progress throughout the year, and then being able to make any course corrections on these goals and on your measurements and activities as you go throughout the year. Your goals need to be focused, on the desired result, which is safety, which is, no accidents, no deaths, no serious injuries, and hopefully, no accidents at all, or at least no lost time accidents where people are injured. We want a goal, of moving towards that perfect safety record. So it needs to be focused on that desired result, whatever the goals are that you choose. Your involvement is essential in these goals. Your employees need to see that you are actively, pursuing safety goals for their benefit. And when they see that it's important to you, it'll be important to them. And you need to set the example. Share your goals with your employees and with your staff, so that there's transparency, there's visibility. If I want accountability, if I want to set a goal and I want to achieve that goal, I don't just hide it, so that if I, fail, then I don't have to, be afraid that everybody knows I failed. We got to share those goals. That helps create our own personal accountability and also helps us get others engaged in accomplishing that goal. So create accountability for yourself as that top management, and create accountability for others as well in order to help you achieve that goal, because obviously it's a personal goal, but it's also going to be a goal that affects the safety performance of your organization. Your measurements, should be identified to help you improve, to become better. So what kind of measurements do we need to look at? It could be aggregate results. What's the total number of workers' compensation accidents that we had last year? Can we beat that by a certain amount? What's that goal there? Or maybe we look at some rates and ratios. The common graph that we use on our sample incentive programs is, accidents or claims per month. And so if we can look at that on a monthly basis, we can gauge how well we're doing compared to last year's. And we want to make sure that we're looking at both leading indicators and trailing indicators. But our activities need to be focused towards those leading indicators, those things that we're doing that are going to help prevent something from happening. And of course, trailing indicators, your ultimate goal at the end of the year is going to be based on some trailing indicators. If we want to have zero accidents during the year, then when we get to the end of the year, if that number is zero, that's the trailing indicator. That's what we want. But focus on those leading indicators that will get you to the trailing indicator that is your desired result. Target activities. What am I going to do every day, every week, every month, or once a quarter to engage progress on this goal? So set the example. Have a target activity, something that you're going to do every day that, sets the example for your employees, or shows them that you're committed, or shows them that you're involved or concerned. Maybe it's the management by walking around. Maybe it's getting out there in the workshops with the employees, taking a look at what they're doing, being aware, letting them see you care to be there in their work environment to see what's going on. Your involvement, activities that will show you participating in safety, activities that will increase your awareness of what's going on. It's really actually surprising often how many times top managers in our organizations aren't aware when a claim's been filed. They're not aware that a piece of equipment was damaged or somebody had an accident. Use these goals to help you increase your awareness. If you're not aware of what's going on, then you're not going to be able to take action to be a part of that improvement. Again, these activities are things that you need to hold yourself accountable to. Maybe you're not perfect, but keep track of it so that, you can see how well you're doing holding yourself accountable to achieve the goal. So the major goal is going to have, smaller goals associated with it. Follow up, on your action points of accountability, and obviously follow up on others as well, assignments that you've given to others to make sure that they're following through on their safety assignments. Frequency, again, we need to be doing things with some regularity, and we need to hold ourselves accountable to doing things, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, or even quarterly. I'd like to keep things that we're looking at mostly daily, weekly, monthly. If we're doing things that often, then, they will become a part of our routine, and that will help us achieve our goals. Measure your progress. So, have a way of tracking, how many of these target activities do I need to do throughout the year? Keep track of how many you did and whether you did them on time. And so that you can give yourself that kudos, that feedback, that pat on the back, for staying up on the activities that you need to achieve the goal. And then course corrections. Obviously, we may set the goals may be good, but maybe the target activities need to be changed a little bit, or maybe our commitment needs to be changed throughout the year. If I'm trying to lose weight and I step on the scales and I weigh, 2 pounds more than I did yesterday or last week, something in my efforts needs to be adjusted. So whether it's my physical activity needs to be increased, or whether I need to do a better job of watching my caloric intake, I can make that course correction. So evaluate your efforts. Ask yourself continually, are they effective? Am I doing it well enough? Is it having a result? Am I doing it on a timely basis? Is my accountability working? Am I holding myself accountable? Am I holding others accountable? And again, don't fear the grumbles. I don't want to be someone who's telling you to just go out and make everybody mad, but just be aware as we do this, people, there will be some complaints, but in the end, when we get to where we're going, then everybody will be much happier knowing that there have been part of a successful effort, to have a safe work environment where we are recognized for our accomplishment. So that's basically what we're going to be looking at on the TAP program. Now, we look back on past TAP programs, and there's other aspects that we have removed from the TAP program, the return to work requirements that were associated with past TAP, the public safety, the law enforcement policy review, annual review, the safety audits, your self-safety audits, training, driver and vehicle safety, programs, your MVR checks, and making sure you have safe drivers behind the wheel, your sewer management programs. Now, obviously, we're not saying that these things don't matter anymore. In fact, these have been very effective in moving the needle for us here at the Trust. Return to work has been extremely successful. Over the last several years, we've seen about 75% reduction. Well, not 75, it's about 60 to 70% reduction in the number of lost time days that we've had as a pool, as a whole. It's been drastic reductions in restricted work days, lost time days, and claims with lost times, as well as claims with restricted days. All of those have dropped dramatically because of our return to work efforts. So in all of these points are very important. And so we're not going to lose focus on these. They will not be requirements on the TAP award program, but as a risk management team, as a loss prevention team, as we're working with you, we will still be working with you on implementation of these as best practices. And so we have a 10-point best practices manual that we'll be sharing with you, and that we'll be working with you and evaluating how well you have each of these implemented. And so the items that are currently part of the 2019 TAP award will be part of that best practices. And then these items here, the return to work, the policy review for law enforcement, safety audits, training programs, driver safety, and sewer management will all be part of the Utah Local Governments Trust best practices. And we will still be working with you, evaluating how well those are being implemented and helping you to improve those so that we can continue to see the benefits. We're just making the TAP program itself more focused and simplified on those activities where we can have the greatest forward-moving benefit as a group in reducing losses, saving money, helping to keep your premiums down, and keeping, most importantly, you and everyone that you work with in your work family safe every day of the year. So just in review, 2019 TAP, Safety Committee still there. Best level implementation is what we're looking for, and that includes your incident reviews. And again, we'll be preparing some updated documents to help you with this. Safety incentive programs where people are held accountable, where they're rewarded for being safe, and where they're held, otherwise accountable when need be. And be looking, for that. Don't try and sweep things under the rug. Make sure that we're addressing issues and moving forward and holding people accountable. And then top management goals. The most successful programs that we've had, the top management has been 100% committed to the safety committee functions and the safety incentive programs. And so, we encourage you to make sure that as a top level management that you have personal and organizational goals that you're focusing on throughout the year to help your organization be safer and improve. So any questions?
All right. Folks, if you've got some questions you'd like to ask or comments, type those into your chat box or the Q&A box. Looks like Brent has a comment.
I was just going to add, I was looking over the people that are on the attendance list here today on this webinar, and I noticed that some of them are not necessarily the top management, but they might be the ones that are really driving this program there for doing TAP. And so I was going to encourage them to start engaging that top manager and start getting those goals worked out. It might be a risk manager, it might be a safety coordinator, even recorders and treasurers might be out there that are watching this and doing this. So I would encourage them to reach out to us for help. We can help guide you through that and also engage that top manager.
And I want to emphasize, that we look at your TAP submissions with the scope of your operations in mind. We're not looking for everybody to do exactly, what others are doing. But we see things that in general are very successful, and we encourage the adoption of those things. But obviously, we're going to work with you for something that's going to work for your organization within your scope of operations and, what your business is. And so, don't be feeling like we're putting you in any kind of a keyhole. We want to work with you and adapt the aspects of this program to you and to your organizations. And so, consult with us, and we're happy to work with you on this. And we expect and hope that many more members will participate in the TAP program, with this new simplified format.
Just on that same thought, Doug, this is I had this great point.
And it flew. It went away.
It went away. I just totally into the ether. Yeah, absolutely. This is a huge opportunity. I remember what it was. We don't pretend to say that we have all the answers. That we talk about best practices. Part of this change, and when you look at the goal setting, the management commitment, part of that is some of you have and many of you have just innovative solutions that work really well, and we want to learn from that. We want to work together as an organization, as peers, to make this a lot better. This is a pretty momentous change in the TAP program, and we didn't go into this blind. We realize that this is a major thing, and we're taking some risks, but we think those risks are really important to get the best out of all of us.
I want to emphasize that Jason's spot on there. We did this because this management goal, this management commitment requirement, we really do want to see what you're doing in your organizations. We expect to be able to benefit, from the best things that are being done out there, so that we can share those ideas with others at the same time. And so with that third requirement, not only are we looking for, the accomplishment for the success in reducing, accidents, but we're also looking for great ideas and great examples of the things that you all are doing, individually, because we know that we can learn from things that you're doing that may be different. And we can share that with a lot of other people that can benefit from the things that you're doing really well.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we'll be doing throughout the year, is really sharing those types of best practices that work really well. We do have a question: will we share the webinar info for reference? The answer is yes. We've recorded this session, and we'll place it up on the website, as well as Doug. You'll share those slides.
Yes.
Okay, Doug will make a copy of those available, and I'll send that out as we send out the announcement when the recording is available on the website. So once again, share this with those in your organization who may not have been able to attend today, and we'll get that on the website as soon as we possibly can. And then we had some thanks there for the good information. But once again, 2018 is still 2018. And so we want to see your applications in. We'd like to see the rest of those get in. The 15th is the due date for your 2015 applications. So get those into us, and we'll take a look. If you have questions or you're stuck on something, hey, I've got a problem with this or that, call us up. Our goal is to help you get better, to help you get TAP, and in the long run prevent those losses and keep your people healthy and safe in doing their job. So, Doug, final word?
That's it. We are here to help you, and we want to make sure that as an organization, as not as an organization, but as a trust, all of us together, all 500 members, that we're able to be helping each other, that we can get some synergy here, to help each other be safer and improve safety. It really means the world to us to be able to help you with your safety programs, because it's something that we each feel very personally. And your safety is important to us. When there's a severe accident out there, and when there's even, worse, when we have a catastrophic event, we feel that. It pains us, and we want to make sure that we're able to help protect, and that we're doing everything we can to help you. But we can't be there, and we can't do it every day. We cannot be your risk manager. That's something that needs to happen in each of your organizations. And so we're going to do everything we can to support those efforts. And if you have any comments or any suggestions, we want to hear what they are. And if we can help you in any way to, be flexible and help make these programs fit your operations, if you feel that they're not, we want to be there and customize in any way we can to help things be best for each of you individually, as well as collectively for all of us as members of the trust. So go out there, be safe, and let's have a fantastic 2019. I'm really excited to see some great things happen this year.
Awesome. Thanks, Doug. All right, we'll wrap it there. We do have one more question that we'll go into, but if you want to take